Big weekend for boxing fans and an even bigger weekend for those in New York City celebrating their Puerto Rican heritage. Brooklyn's very own Edgar Berlanga is throwing hands with Alexis Angulo on Saturday night at the Garden. And New York Post boxing writer Jared Schwartz joins me now, and we're going to talk about this historic fight because, Jared, Edgar Berlanga's family is from Puerto Rico, and he's fighting at the Garden on the eve of the Puerto Rican Day Parade. What does this moment and opportunity represent to he and his camp?
You know, Brandon, in the 2 years that I've known Edgar, everything has been working towards this moment. It's always been, how do I fight at Madison Square Garden on Puerto Rican Day weekend? How do I fight at Madison Square Garden on Puerto Rican Day weekend? That dream was sparked when he was a child in the Madison Square Garden crowd, watching his hero, Miguel Cotto, knock out Zab Judah on Puerto Rican Day weekend, electrify the crowd, and really mean something to his community. Since that moment, that's been kind of the goal and the dream for his career beyond titles and championships. Now that dream is finally here. He's being billed as perhaps the biggest young rising star out of Puerto Rico in the sport. He thinks this moment cements him at that stature.
You know, we say in sports all the time when we talk about motivation and inspiration, what's your why? So we now know his why. He's inspired. So how important is this fight for him in terms of his career and his place in the division?
This fight really comes at a pivotal time in his career. His first 16 fights almost might have provided a negative for him in knocking out his first 16 opponents in the first round. He almost perhaps created some expectations that were impossible to follow in terms of fans seeing his power, seeing his knockout prowess, seeing him provide some of these jaw-dropping moments that he hasn't provided in his last three fights. Now, he won those last three fights by unanimous decision, but he hasn't provided some of those jaw-dropping moments, some of those electrifying moments that fans have become accustomed to. On Saturday, he knows some of this criticism has been unfair, but he knows it's time to start getting back to who he is as a fighter, who he is inside the ring, and start showing those moments that created such a big hype and big promotion around him.
Do you think he's feeling any pressure in this moment?
Both pressure inside the ring and outside the ring. In talking to him, he doesn't want to say he wants to necessarily get back to that knockout prowess, but he recognizes the moment, he recognizes the environment, he recognizes who the fans are going to be rooting for and pulling for, and he recognizes what this moment means for this community and his place in that event.
All right, it's going down tomorrow night at the Garden. Jared, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Brandon.